Hello, this is the demonstration portion of my group project entitled Exploiting the Login Session. So let's get started with this. I'm very excited. Before we get started, though, I do have a disclaimer. I take no responsibility for any damages incurred by repeating this action in a production environment. Some pretty scary stuff. Reproducing this in any environment without prior consent could lead to employment termination and legal prosecution. I know if somebody did this in my current organization, they would be quickly shown the door and there could be legal prosecution involved. All right, not to scare you too much, but let's get started. Part one is we're going to be exploiting the Windows 7 login session. So let's get started. What we see here is a virtual machine, obviously Windows 7. And what I've done was I have logged into this computer and disconnected for two different types of accounts. One is a standard user account called Comp Security. It's just a standard user on my domain that I've created. And an additional user is called Test Domain Admin. As you can see in the name, it is a domain administrator who just so happened to log into this Windows 7 machine. And instead of logging out, they just disconnected their session. Okay, here we go. So if you refer to the reference section at the end of this video, you can see my sources where I got this information on how to do this. What I'm going to do is give a demonstration of this process. So I'm logged in right now as a local administrator to this box. So I just have administrative privileges on this machine. I have nothing on the domain. So what I'm going to do now is run some command line commands. Here we go. Query user. Also, there's an alias called QUser. What this does is show me, just like what I see here from the task manager, all the different sessions that exist and their state, which this does match the task manager. So what I'm going to run next is a command that will create a new service that will allow me, once started, to jump into any of these existing sessions. So here we go. So right now I'm grabbing the session ID that I want to jump into. Happens to be 4. And I want to send that to my existing RDP session, which happens to be called RDP-TCP number 0. All right, double checking this. So I have 4 here. That matches session 4. Also, you can see in the task manager session 4. And RDP-TCP number 0. That is me. If I get an error, it means I've already created this service. So this happens probably because I experimented with this earlier. I just need to delete that service with the same command. If you're wondering what SC is, I believe you can just run it, it'll tell you. Service control. Anyway, so we're going to go back and create this exact command. And we have create service success. So what I have to do now is do a net start. I think that's right. What we should see is I immediately will be jumped into another session. Here we go. So I already had a window open here. As you can see, it was a disconnected session. The who am I is a test domain admin. So this is scary. So the local administrator was able to now jump into this domain administrator's account. I have full control of the domain right now. If we wanted to, since this is my domain, we could do a command such as consistent here. So I literally, oh, here we go. It's okay. I literally just created a user on the domain. Scary business. Even scarier. Let's see what we can do here. Oops, let's see here. What did I do? Oh, probably helps if I type correctly. Always important. Here we go. So if you know what I just did here, I just created a user and added them to the domain administrators group. So I could quickly slip out of here. Now I have a new user on the domain that I just created who's a domain administrator. So somebody could slip out of this profile and then they could use that domain administrator account to do who knows what. If you want to, let's do something real quick. And jump into my connection center here. I'm going to jump into my domain controller just to prove that that account does exist on the domain. I'm fond of server core, so you have to bear with me here. Oh yes, it's still open from before when I did this exact thing. So I'm just going to run this command again, and sure enough, there's that user. What do we have here? Oh, some other stuff that I was doing. I guess we could do get AD group member. So what we're doing now is just I'm gonna take a look from the domain controller perspective on this members of this domain. So if you notice, there is test delete me is on there. So again, very scary. I just created a domain admin. All I was a local administrator on a box that happened to have a domain administrator on it by hijacking their session. All right, that concludes this section. In this next section, we'll be attempting the same thing we just did, hijacking a user session, but we will be using Windows 10 instead. Want to mention, if you didn't know, you can download free ISOs for the newest operating systems, such as Windows 10, directly from Microsoft for the purposes of testing. This one that I'm using expires in 3 months, but they do keep releasing those. So if you're interested in doing testing such as this, there are free options. All right, here we are on the Windows 10 desktop. We're presented with the same kind of scenario here as the Windows 7. We have user comp security, disconnected session, same with test domain admin, disconnected session, and we're logged in as local admin. So we're going to run the same command, again from an administrator command prompt. We're going to run the same commands again. Just going to delete that if that doesn't exist. Okay. Create a session or a service. Yeah, so what we're doing is running the command line with the parameter tscon. What that stands for is terminal server connection, or connect, terminal server connect. We're trying to get to the test domain admin, which in this case is at ID 4, destination RDP-TCP number 6. So let's double check. So session 4, that's the test domain admin session, disconnected. RDP TCP number 6, that's who I am right now. All right, so let's execute this. And we did create that session, or service. So here we go. Now we're going to start up that. And here we are. We're not allowed in to hijack that session. We're presented with a password prompt. And this, in all my earlier testing, is exactly what I got, and I did not find a way to get around this. So it does appear that with Windows 10, Microsoft has put a stop to this method of hijacking login sessions. So, which is good news. So we can't get into that, hijack that user session. All right, that concludes this section. Thank you. All right, for part 3, we're going to attempt credential extraction as a local administrator in a Windows 7 box. All right, here we go. Back to the Windows 7 desktop. We're presented with the same scenario as the last time we were on the Windows 7 desktop. We have 2 users who are in the disconnected state, and then we're logged in as this local administrator called local admin. And what I've done is downloaded and installed a piece of software called Mimikatz. This is a tool that was created to extract Windows credentials from memory on a Windows computer. So what this does is shows you what is stored in the memory. So we do have to run it as an administrator. Again, we're the local administrator, so we can do that. What I'm doing is running commands that are found with the documentation of this application. Looks like it worked. So I should mention that the creds for these 3 accounts are made up. These aren't anything in a real environment. Like I said, it's a test domain, and I created really difficult passwords for every one of these accounts, as you'll see. So I'm just scanning right now. I'll stop when I find something. Well, here we go. So we have the local administrator account password that we logged into the computer as, so we didn't really learn anything new, but here it is in plain text. Now we have user comp security logged into this computer, in plain text, their password. This is a secure password, right? All right. Oh, here we are. The test domain admin happens to have a disconnected session, and there is that password. I have the best password ever, and you will never figure it out. Well, we have it now. And for part 4, we're going to take a look at the Windows 10 credential extraction process and see how that goes. All right, here we are. We're back into the Windows 10 virtual machine. Before I get started, I have to say that it was very difficult to download and install Mimikatz on Windows 10. I got a lot of security notices. It was very difficult to download it from anywhere or install it. It was a very big effort. Also, based on the documentation and my own earlier experiences, even to get this to work, you have to, as an admin, add a registry setting in there to use the security provider called wdigest, which is what stores credentials in clear text. Without that, Mimikatz fails, can't even access the password information. So by default, Windows 10 is secure. You do have to take some purposeful efforts in order to get this hack to work. So I did have to use logon credentials. There's just a command that just adds this registry entry in, and then you do have to reboot. All right, so here we are, back to Mimikatz. So we're going to run the same command as the Windows 7 environment. All right, found that this returns a lot more information, but it does return what you're looking for, or what we're looking for here. So I'm going to scroll. And we're just scrolling. Here we go. We have the comp security password. This is a secure password, right? There we go. We have that one, which is the existing user, so nothing too crazy. I gotta scroll in another room. Here we go. We have the test domain admin. I think I probably passed by the other password, but this is really the one we're after. Test domain admin, and then I have the best password ever, and you will never figure it out. Now we could use this, although we were unable to hijack the session on this computer for this user, we do know their password, so we could, in effect, do the same thing or log into a different server or remotely execute some scripts. All right, thanks for watching. Here are some of the references that I used to conduct these exploits. I hope you found it useful and interesting as much as I did. I found this very exciting. I've seen this demoed once, maybe 4 years ago at a conference, and I never tried this on my own, so it was very exciting to see this, but it's also shocking at the same time to find out how easy it is to get some of these credentials if you're a local administrator. So it's definitely very eye-opening for me. So yeah, these two references. Also, if you're looking to set up your own lab, like I mentioned earlier, Microsoft offers free options. I run Hyper-V Server in my own house, and that's actually what hosts all these virtual machines. That's a free server operating system that you can use. It's a hypervisor that lets you launch VMs. Obviously, you need licensing for the VMs themselves, but like I mentioned, Microsoft does offer free virtual machines for evaluation purposes, things such as this. It worked very nice. It was very easy to get, very easy to implement. All right, that concludes my demonstration. Thank you.